Sebastian Vale built a fortress around his heart, until housekeeper Elise Monroe wandered in, humming, dusting, and unknowingly changing everything. One forbidden kiss under stormy skies, and nothing would ever be the same. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun peeked through the tall windows of the Vale mansion, casting long shadows across the marble floors. Sebastian Vale, the mysterious billionaire who owned half the digital world, stood at his office window overlooking the Pacific Ocean. At 39, he had everything money could buy, but his eyes held a loneliness that no fortune could fix. "Mr. Vale, the new housekeeper starts today," announced Martha, his longtime house manager. The agency sent someone with excellent references. Sebastian barely nodded. Staff came and went in his massive glass and stone estate. He rarely noticed them. He preferred it that way, keeping everyone at a distance. "Just make sure she knows the rules. I need my privacy," he said, turning back to his computer screens. Martha sighed. "Of course, sir. As always." When she left, Sebastian rubbed his tired eyes. He hadn't slept well in days. The weight of running his empire from this self-imposed prison was taking its toll. But the alternative, letting people in, was unthinkable. Not after what his parents had done to him. His mother had used love like a weapon, giving and taking it away whenever it suited her. His father's belt had left more than physical scars. Sebastian had learned early that trusting others only led to pain, so he built walls, not just the concrete and glass ones surrounding his estate, but the invisible ones around his heart. Downstairs, Elise Monroe clutched her worn handbag as Martha showed her around the massive kitchen. "It's overwhelming at first," Martha said kindly, noticing Elise's wide eyes, "but you'll get used to it." Elise smiled nervously. At 34, she had spent years cleaning other people's homes, but nothing like this palace. The job paid twice what she usually made, and right now she needed every penny. "Thank you for the opportunity," Elise said. "I promise I won't disappoint you. Just remember the most important rules say the third floor is completely off limits. That's Mr. Vale's private space. He values his privacy above all else." Elise nodded. "I understand. Does he ever come downstairs?" Martha's expression softened. "Rarely. Some staff have worked here for years and never seen him in person. The rumors about him only coming out at night aren't true, though. He's just private." What Martha didn't say was that Sebastian was damaged, broken in ways money couldn't fix. As Elise began her work, dusting the countless shelves in the library, she hummed softly to herself. It was an old habit, a way to make lonely work seem less so. The Vale mansion was beautiful, but cold, like no one really lived there. In his office, Sebastian frowned at the security monitor. The new housekeeper was in his library, touching his things. He didn't like change, didn't like strangers in his space. But there was something about her, the way she carefully handled each book before dusting it, the way she paused to admire, the view of the ocean, the soft tune she hummed that somehow carried through the monitor's speakers. Days passed, and Sebastian found himself watching her more often. Not in a creepy way, he told himself, just curious. She seemed different from the other staff, gentler, sadder somehow. One evening, after everyone had gone home, Sebastian ventured to the kitchen for coffee. He froze when he heard voices. The cleaning staff usually left by 6. "Thank you so much," Elise was saying to Carlos, the chef. "These leftovers will save me a trip to the grocery store." "No problem," Carlos replied. "Mr. Vale insists we throw everything out each day anyway. Might as well help each other out." Sebastian stepped back into the shadows. So she was taking food. He should be angry. But instead, he wondered why she needed to. The next day, he watched her even more closely. He noticed her worn shoes, the careful way she made her cheap phone calls during breaks, always checking the minutes. Once, she sat by the window during lunch, writing something that made her frown with worry. A week later, Sebastian was working late when the security system alerted him to movement in the garden. He switched to the outdoor cameras and saw her, there sitting on a stone bench, crying softly. She held a piece of paper that shook in her hands. Without thinking, Sebastian zoomed the camera in. It was a letter. An eviction notice. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Compassion. The next morning, Elise received a call from her landlord. "I don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "Someone paid 6 months of my rent? There must be a mistake." "No. Mistake, Miss Monroe. The payment came in yesterday. Everything's square now." After she hung up, Elise stood in the Vale Mansion's laundry room, stunned. It had to be him, the reclusive billionaire she'd never even seen. But why? 2 days later, Elise was carrying fresh towels upstairs when she took a wrong turn. The hallway looked the same as all the others, and before she realized her mistake, she pushed open a door and found herself in a large study. A man stood by the window, barefoot, in expensive but rumpled clothes. He turned, startled by her entrance, and Elise finally saw the face of the mysterious Sebastian Vale. He wasn't what she expected, tall and lean with dark hair that needed cutting and a shadow of stubble on his jaw. But it was his eyes that caught her, blue and intense with dark circles beneath them. He looked exhausted, lonely. "I'm so sorry," Elise gasped. "I got lost. I didn't mean—" Sebastian didn't yell, didn't call security. He just stared at her, like he was seeing a ghost. "You're the new housekeeper," he said quietly. Elise nodded, clutching the towels. "Elise Monroe. I should go—" "Was it enough?" he asked suddenly. "What?" "The rent money. Was it enough?" Elise's cheeks burned. "It was." "I thought so, but why would you do that for someone you don't even know?" Sebastian turned back to the window. "I don't know. I saw you crying. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. An awkward silence fell between them. Elise should leave. She'd broken the biggest rule of the house. But something kept her feet planted. "You don't have to be alone all the time," she said softly. Sebastian's shoulders stiffened. When he turned, his expression was raw, vulnerable in a way that made her heart ache. "I don't know how not to be," he whispered, the words sounding like a confession. After that strange encounter, Elise expected to be fired. Instead, nothing changed, except everything had. She felt his eyes on her, not through cameras now, but in person. She would turn while cleaning and catch a glimpse of him watching from doorways before he disappeared. One day she found a book on her cleaning cart, a collection of poetry with a simple note. "This made me think of you." Martha noticed the change in her boss. "He's different lately," she told Elise as they folded sheets together. "He actually said good morning yesterday, first time in 5 years." "Maybe he's just having a good week," Elise suggested, not wanting to reveal their strange connection. "It's since you started," Martha said knowingly. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. It's good for him." But Elise wasn't doing anything, except being herself, and that terrified her. She couldn't afford to lose this job, especially now that her sister's medical bills were piling up. As weeks passed, Sebastian began appearing more frequently. First just passing through rooms where she worked, then pausing to ask simple questions. Did she need anything? Was the work too difficult? Elise answered honestly, never treating him like the billionaire he was, just as a man who seemed desperately in need of normal conversation. One evening, as storm clouds gathered over the Pacific, Elise was finishing late. The other staff had already left when the first crash of thunder shook the windows. "You shouldn't drive in this," Sebastian said, appearing in the kitchen doorway. "The coastal road isn't safe during storms." Elise jumped. "Mr. Vale, you startled me." "Sebastian," he corrected. "Please." The lights flickered as rain lashed against the windows. "I can call you a car service," he offered. "I'll be fine," Elise began. But at that moment, the mansion plunged into darkness. "Power's out," Sebastian said unnecessarily. "It happens during the big storms. The generator will kick in for the essential systems, but not all the lights." Lightning illuminated his face, and Elise saw something there. Fear, excitement. She couldn't tell. "There's a fireplace in the library," he said hesitantly. Would you sit with me until the storm passes?" The request was so unexpected, so human that Elise couldn't refuse. Of course. In the library, Sebastian built a fire with practiced hands while Elise watched, fascinated by this glimpse of normalcy from the reclusive billionaire. The warm glow filled the room, creating a cozy island in the vast dark mansion. "Tea?" he asked, gesturing to a small electric kettle he'd plugged into the backup power outlet. "Yes, please." His hands shook slightly as he poured 2 cups. They sat in armchairs facing the fire, the storm raging outside. "Why did you become a housekeeper?" Sebastian asked suddenly. Elise smiled. "Not everyone gets to choose their dream job. My sister got sick when I was 20. I dropped out of college to help with her care. Cleaning houses gave me flexible hours. Is she better now? Some days. It's a chronic condition." Elise sipped her tea. "What about you? Did you always want to be a tech mogul?" Sebastian actually laughed, a rusty sound as if rarely used. "No, I wanted to be left alone. The business was just a means to that end." "And now you're alone in this beautiful prison," Elise observed. Sebastian stared into the fire. "It's not a prison if you choose it, isn't it?" Elise asked softly. The conversation flowed more easily after that. They talked about books, music, the ocean they both loved. As the night deepened and the storm showed no signs of stopping, they moved closer to the fire. "Can I ask you something personal?" Elise ventured, feeling brave in the firelight. Sebastian tensed but nodded. "Why did you pay my rent?" "The truth." He looked away. "Because you were crying, and I don't remember the last time I cried. Because you seem kind, and kindness is rare. Because, she prompted. "Because you hum when you think no one is listening," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I've never done that. Never felt that free." Something shifted between them in that moment, a wall crumbling just slightly. "I've never—" Sebastian began, then stopped, his voice breaking. Elise tilted her head. "Never what?" He couldn't look at her. "Been kissed, not once, not like it meant something." The admission hung in the air, vulnerable and raw. Elise didn't laugh, didn't pity him. She simply understood the depth of his isolation in that moment. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his face, her fingertips gentle against his cheek, and then in the flickering firelight, as rain pounded against the windows, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, still. Sebastian froze, then trembled beneath her touch. When Elise pulled away, his eyes remained closed, as if holding on to the moment. "Please," he whispered, opening his eyes to look at her with such naked longing that it took her breath away. "Don't let that be the only time." The morning after the kiss, Elise woke up in one of the mansion's guest rooms. The storm had made the roads too dangerous, and Sebastian had insisted she stay. As she stared at the ceiling, her fingers touched her lips, remembering. What had she done? Kissing her employer, a billionaire recluse with more issues than she could count, was beyond foolish. She needed this job. Her sister depended on her. When she finally ventured downstairs, the house was quiet. Martha gave her a knowing look, but said nothing as she handed Elise a cup of coffee. "Mr. Vale asked that you use the company car to get home and change." "Take your time coming back," Martha said. "Did he say anything else?" Elise asked, her cheeks warming. "Just that the storm did some damage to the greenhouse and he'd be working there most of the day." Elise nodded, relieved and disappointed at the same time. Maybe Sebastian regretted what happened. Maybe it was better this way. But when she returned that afternoon, she found a small box on her cleaning cart. Inside was a key with a note. "Greenhouse, 5 p.m. if you want to." At 5 o'clock, Elise stood outside the glass building at the edge of the property, her heart racing. Through the windows, she could see Sebastian moving between the plants, checking something on a clipboard. He looked different in jeans and a simple t-shirt, more human, less untouchable. When she opened the door, he turned, and the clipboard nearly slipped from his hands. "You came," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Sebastian ran a hand through his hair. "I thought you might have regrets about last night." Elise moved closer, taking in the beautiful flowers and plants around them. "Do you? Have regrets?" "No," he said immediately. I've never felt anything like that." His honesty disarmed her. Most men played games, hid their feelings. Sebastian had no filter, no practice at this dance. "I've never kissed a billionaire before," she said, trying to lighten the mood. "I expected more fireworks." Sebastian laughed. That same rusty sound from the night before. Next time I'll try to arrange some. Next time. The words hung between them, full of promise. Is that why you asked me here? For next time? Elise asked boldly. Sebastian shook his head. I asked you here because I'm building something and I wanted your opinion. He gestured for her to follow him to the back of the greenhouse. There, in a special section, white gardenias grew in neat rows. Martha mentioned they're your favorite, he explained. I thought maybe this could be your space, somewhere peaceful to come when you need a break. Elise touched one of the delicate blooms, overwhelmed. No one had ever given her anything so thoughtful. Sebastian, this is too much. It's nothing, he insisted, just plants and dirt. But they both knew it was more. It was him opening a door he'd kept locked his entire adult life. Thank you, she said softly, reaching for his hand. When their fingers touched, Sebastian looked almost startled, as if the simple contact was still new and shocking. Slowly, hesitantly, he pulled her closer. May I? He whispered, his eyes on. Her lips, Elise nodded, and his mouth found hers. This time the kiss was less tentative. His hand cupped her face as if she were made of glass, but there was hunger there too, decades of loneliness seeking warmth. When they parted, both breathing harder, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted. I've never felt this way about anyone. We'll figure it out together, Elise promised, though a voice in her head warned that this was dangerous ground. She was a housekeeper. He was worth billions. These stories never ended well. But for now, standing among the gardenias with his arms around her, those concerns seemed far away. In the weeks that followed, Sebastian changed. The staff noticed it immediately. He began taking meals in the dining room instead of his office. He greeted people by name. He even joined a video conference instead of just dialing in. For Elise, the changes were even more dramatic. Sebastian sought her out constantly, waiting for her in hallways, leaving her notes with quotes from books he thought she'd like. Once, he even ventured into town with her to visit her sister in the hospital. You didn't have to come, Elise had told him as they walked through the parking lot, Sebastian looking uncomfortable in his baseball cap disguise. I wanted to meet someone who matters to you, he said simply. Her sister, Jenny, had been speechless when Elise introduced Sebastian Vale, the tech genius whose software probably ran the hospital's computers. But Sebastian had been surprisingly normal, asking Jenny about her treatments and actually listening to the answers. Later, when Elise stepped out to get coffee, Jenny grabbed her arm. He's in love with you, she whispered. The way he looks at you when you're not watching. Elise, I've never seen anyone look at someone like that. It's complicated, Elise replied, her chest tight with emotions she wasn't ready to name. Life is complicated, Jenny said. But finding someone who looks at you like that? That's rare. On the drive back to the mansion, Sebastian was quiet. What are you thinking about? Elise asked. Your sister said something to me, he admitted. When you were getting coffee, she said if I hurt you, she'd find a way to crash every computer system I own. Elise laughed. That sounds like Jenny. I like her, Sebastian said. She loves you fiercely. She's all the family I have. Sebastian's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What about your parents? Dad left when we were kids. Mum died 5 years ago, cancer. Elise glanced at him. What about yours? Sebastian's jaw tightened. My mother lives in Europe. We speak once a year on her birthday. My father died while I was in college. Heart attack. Were you close to him? No. The word was clipped, final. He was not a kind man. Elise wanted to press to understand the pain she glimpsed in his eyes, but she sensed he wasn't ready. Instead, she put her hand on his arm. Thank you for coming today. It meant a lot to me. That night, Sebastian invited Elise to have dinner with him on the terrace overlooking the ocean. The staff had been sent home early, and he'd ordered food from her favorite restaurant in town. Are you trying to impress me? She teased as he poured wine into crystal glasses. Is it working? He asked, a rare smile lifting the corners of his mouth. Maybe, but you know I was impressed by the gardenias. This is just showing off. Sebastian laughed, relaxing slightly. I've never done this before, a real date. Never. Elise found that hard to believe. But you. A socially awkward recluse with trust issues, he suggested. I was going to say handsome, brilliant, and successful. Sebastian shook his head. I had relationships in college, brief ones, nothing real. He set down his glass. The truth is, I couldn't let anyone close enough to see the real me. Until you. The raw honesty in his voice moved her. Elise reached across the table and took his hand. What changed? With me? Sebastian thought for a moment. You saw me. Not the money or the power or the reputation, just me. And you didn't run away. After dinner, they walked in the garden under the stars. When Sebastian kissed her, there was a new confidence in his touch, his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close as if he couldn't bear any space between them. Stay tonight, he whispered against her lips. Elise pulled back, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. Sebastian, I don't think, not for that, he clarified quickly. Just stay, hold me, let me fall asleep knowing you're there. How could she refuse such a simple, honest request? That night, Elise lay next to Sebastian in his massive bed, wearing one of his t-shirts. He held her like she might disappear, his face buried in her hair. Tell me something you've never told anyone, he murmured, as they drifted towards sleep. Elise thought for a moment. I'm scared all the time, she admitted. About money, about Jenny's health, about the future. I pretend to be strong, but inside I'm terrified. Sebastian tightened his arms around her. I'll take care of you, both of you. If you'll let me. I don't want your money, Sebastian. I know. That's why I want to give you everything. In the morning, Elise woke to find Sebastian watching her, a look of wonder on his face. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. I've never watched someone sleep before, he said. It's intimate. Elise smiled and touched his cheek. There are a lot of firsts ahead of us, aren't there? Something shifted in Sebastian's eyes, a shadow of fear quickly hidden. Yes, he agreed, if that's what you want. Before Elise could ask what he meant, Sebastian's phone rang. His face darkened as he checked the screen. I need to take this, he said, sitting up. Business emergency. Elise nodded, watching as he transformed before her eyes from the vulnerable man who'd held her all night into the powerful CEO. His voice became clipped, authoritative as he dealt with whatever crisis had erupted. When he hung up, he ran a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. I need to handle this. Make yourself at home. I'll be in my office. Just like that, he was gone, leaving Elise alone in his bedroom. She tried not to feel hurt by the sudden withdrawal. This was his world, after all. Billion-dollar emergencies and global responsibilities. What did she expect? When she finally ventured downstairs, Martha gave her a sympathetic look. He gets like this when there's a crisis, Martha explained as she handed Elise coffee. Disappears into his work, don't take it personally, but it was hard not to, especially when days passed with barely a word from Sebastian. He holed up in his office, emerging only for brief moments before disappearing again. The notes stopped. The hallway encounters vanished. Elise continued her work, telling herself this was normal. He was a busy man, important. This, whatever it was between them, couldn't be his priority all the time. A week after their night together, Elise was dusting the library when she heard voices from Sebastian's nearby office. The board is concerned, Sebastian, a man was saying. Your behavior has been erratic lately. Missing meetings, changing priorities without consultation. I don't answer to the board, Richard. I own the company. Sebastian's voice was cold. Yes, but there are rumors about you and a member of your household staff. Elise froze, her heart pounding. My personal life is none of the board's business. Sebastian snapped. It is when it affects the company, Richard argued. Do you know what the tabloids would do with this story? Billionaire tech genius falls for the help. Elise felt sick. The help, is that how they saw her? I want you out of my house, Sebastian said, his voice dangerously quiet. Sebastian, be reasonable. The agency has already contacted us with concerns about a conflict of interest. They're talking about reassigning her. Elise didn't wait to hear more. She slipped out of the library, her chest tight with humiliation and anger. The agency was going to reassign her because of Sebastian. She'd been a fool to think this could work. Their worlds were too different. And now she might lose her job, the job her sister's medical care depended on. That evening, Elise waited in the greenhouse among the gardenias. She knew Sebastian would look for her there eventually. When he finally arrived, he looked exhausted. Theobald brightened when he saw her. "I've been looking for you," he said, moving to kiss her. Elise stepped back. "I heard your conversation with Richard." Sebastian's face fell. "Elise, I can explain. The agency wants to reassign me," she cut in, "because of us." "I won't let them," Sebastian insisted. "I'll talk to them." "And then what? I become the housekeeper sleeping with the boss? The gold digger who trapped a billionaire?" Elise wrapped her arms around herself. "I can't be that person, Sebastian. You're not. No one who knows you would ever think that." "The world doesn't know me," Elise said softly. "They know you. They'll see what they expect to see." Sebastian reached for her, his eyes desperate. "I don't care what anyone thinks. I only care about you." "But I care," Elise said. "I have a life, a reputation, a sister who needs me to keep this job." "I told you I'd take care of that." "I don't want to be taken care of," Elise cried. "Don't you see? I want to stand on my own feet. I want to be your equal, not your charity case." Sebastian looked stricken. "Is that what you think this is, charity?" Elise sighed, suddenly tired. "I don't know what this is, Sebastian. It happened so fast. You've never even been in a real relationship before. How do you know this isn't just novelty? The thrill of something new?" "Because I've never wanted anyone else," he said fiercely. "Not once in my life. Until you." The words hung between them, powerful and terrifying. "I need time," Elise finally said. "To think." Sebastian's shoulders slumped, but he nodded. "Whatever you need." The next day, Elise received the call she'd been dreading. The agency was indeed reassigning her to a family across town. Effective. Immediately. "It's nothing personal," her manager assured her. "Just company policy about fraternization." Elise wanted to argue, but knew it was pointless. The decision had been made. She packed her few belongings from the staff room, her heart heavy. She should say goodbye to Sebastian, but the thought of facing him, of seeing the pain in his eyes, was too much. Instead, she wrote a note and left. It in the greenhouse among the gardenias. "Sebastian, I'm sorry. The agency has reassigned me. This is for the best. What we had was beautiful, but it wasn't real life. You deserve someone from your world, someone who can stand beside you without bringing scandal. I need to find my own path. Please don't try to contact me. Take care of yourself, Elise." As she drove away from the Vale mansion for the last time, tears blurred her vision. She'd done the right thing, the sensible thing. So why did it feel like she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life? Days blurred into weeks after Elise left the Vale mansion. She threw herself into her new job cleaning for the Henderson family, nice enough people whose biggest drama was which private school their twins should attend. The work was easier, the hours better, but Elise felt empty. Every night she checked her phone, half hoping to see a message from Sebastian despite her request that he not contact her. Her inbox remained stubbornly empty. "You look terrible," Jenny said bluntly during their weekly dinner at Elise's small apartment. "Are you sleeping at all?" Elise shrugged, pushing pasta around her plate. "I'm fine, just adjusting to the new schedule." "Liar," Jenny accused. "This is about him, isn't it? The billionaire with the sad eyes." "Sebastian," Elise corrected automatically, then winced. Even saying his name hurt. "Have you called him? Checked if he's okay?" "I can't," Elise said. "It's better this way." Jenny set down her fork with a clatter. "Better for who? Because you look miserable, and according to the business news, he's gone completely off the grid. Cancelled all public appearances, skipped board meetings." Elise's head snapped up. "What? When?" "It's been all over the financial channels. Sebastian Vale in seclusion. Genius or breakdown?" Jenny pulled out her phone and showed Elise an article. His company stock dropped 10% because he didn't show up for their big product launch. Anxiety clutched at Elise's chest. Had she done this to him? Pushed him back into isolation after he'd finally started to emerge. "He's probably just working on something new," Elise said weakly. "You know how these tech geniuses are." Right, Jenny said, unconvinced. Look, sis, I get why you left. The whole situation was complicated, but running away isn't solving anything. You're unhappy. From the looks of it, he's unhappy too. What do you expect me to do? Storm his mansion? I'm sure he's moved on by now, Elise said, though she didn't believe it. Call him, text him, something. Elise shook her head. I can't be what he needs, Jenny. He lives in a different world. Did he ever ask you to be anything other than exactly who you are? The question hit Elise like a punch to the stomach. No. Sebastian had never wanted her to change. He'd cherished her exactly as she was. After Jenny left, Elise stood on her tiny balcony, looking at the distant city lights. She pulled out her phone, finger hovering over Sebastian's name in her contacts. What? Would she even say? That she missed him? That she thought about him constantly? That she woke reaching for him in the middle of the night? With a sigh, she put the phone away. The gulf between their worlds was too wide. She'd been right to end it before they both got hurt even worse. At the Vale mansion, Sebastian sat alone in his darkened office, staring at the security footage from weeks ago. Elise humming as she dusted the bookshelves. Elise pausing to watch the sunset. Elise laughing with the kitchen staff. He knew it was pathetic to torture himself this way, but he couldn't stop. A knock at the door interrupted his misery. Go. Away, Martha, he called. The door opened anyway, but it wasn't his housekeeper who entered. It was Richard Klein, his COO and oldest friend. Jesus, Sebastian, Richard said, taking in the unshaven face, rumpled clothes and general disarray of the usually immaculate office. When was the last time you showered? What do you want? Sebastian asked, closing the laptop. The board sent me to make sure you weren't dead, Richard replied, opening the curtains. Sunlight flooded the room, making Sebastian wince. You've missed 3 critical meetings. The new security protocol launch was a disaster without you there to explain it. Send my apologies, Sebastian said flatly. Richard sighed, sitting across from his friend. This is about her, isn't it? The housekeeper. Elise, Sebastian corrected sharply. Her name is Elise. Fine. Elise. Look, I know I was hard on you about that situation, but I had no idea it was this serious. I thought it was just, a fling. Sebastian's laugh was bitter. A fling? Me? When have I ever done anything casual in my entire life? Richard had the grace to look uncomfortable. Fair point, so what happened? She left. Because people like you made her feel like she didn't belong in my world. And you let her go? Richard asked, surprised. The man who negotiated a hostile takeover of TechCore while having pneumonia just gave up? Sebastian glared at him. She asked me not to contact her. I'm respecting her wishes. Since when do you give up on something you want? Richard challenged. The Sebastian Vale I know fights for what matters. This is different, Sebastian insisted. This is her life, her choice. Did she say she didn't want to be with you? Or did she say she was worried about what other people would think? Sebastian was silent, remembering Elise's words. I want to be your equal, not your charity case. That's what I thought, Richard said, standing up. You know, for a genius, you can be incredibly stupid sometimes. After Richard left, Sebastian couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. Had he given up too easily? Should he have fought harder for Elise? No, he decided. She'd made her choice. He had to respect that, even if it was killing him. Instead, he opened his laptop and returned to the project he'd been obsessing over for weeks. If he couldn't have Elise in his life, he could at least make sure she and her sister were taken care of. It took him 3 more days to finalize the details. When he finished, he called Jenny Monroe directly. How did you get my number? She answered suspiciously. I own a tech company, Sebastian replied. Listen, I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet? If this is about getting my sister back, you should be talking to her, not me. It's not, it's about your medical care, please. 2 hours later, Sebastian sat across from Jenny in a private room at an upscale cafe. She looked so much like Elise that it made his chest. Hachi, you look terrible, she said as soon as he sat down. So I've been told. Elise isn't much better, Jenny added, watching his reaction carefully. She pretends she's fine, but she's not. Hope flared in Sebastian's chest, but he pushed it down. I didn't ask you here to talk about Elise. I wanted to tell you about a new healthcare program my foundation is launching. Jenny's eyes narrowed. What foundation? The one I created last week, Sebastian admitted. The Vale Health Initiative. It's going to provide comprehensive coverage for people with chronic conditions who are underinsured. And let me guess, I qualify. Sebastian nodded. All your treatments, medications, even experimental therapies if needed, completely covered. Jenny leaned back, studying him. This is about Elise, isn't it? You're trying to take care of her by taking care of me. I promised her I would, Sebastian said simply. Just because she's not in my life anymore doesn't mean I break my promises. Have you told her about this? No, and I'd rather you didn't either, at least not the part about my involvement. The foundation will contact you officially next week. Jenny shook her head in disbelief. You're creating an entire foundation just to help me without Elise knowing. Not just you, Sebastian corrected. There are thousands of people in similar situations. You're just the inspiration. You're still in love with her, Jenny said. It wasn't a question. Sebastian looked away. That doesn't matter anymore. It matters to her, Jenny insisted. She misses you. She's just too stubborn and proud to admit it. She made her choice, Sebastian said, his voice tight with suppressed emotion. I have to respect that. Jenny rolled her eyes. You're both impossible. Proud, stubborn, and completely miserable without each other. She stood up. Thank you for the medical program. It's incredibly generous. But what my sister needs isn't your money, it's you. After she left, Sebastian sat alone, Jenny's words echoing in his mind. Could it be true? Did Elise miss him as much as he missed her? For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to hope. The next morning, Elise arrived at the Henderson house to find Mrs. Henderson waiting for her with an apologetic expression. I'm so sorry, Elise, but we won't be needing your services anymore, she said. My mother is moving in with us, and she's bringing her longtime housekeeper. Elise blinked in surprise. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity. As she drove home, panic began to set in. Finding a new position could take weeks, and her savings were already stretched thin. When she arrived at her apartment building, her landlord was waiting by the mailboxes. Miss Monroe, I've been trying to reach you. There's been a mix-up with your rent payment. Elise's stomach dropped. What kind of mix-up? The automatic payment system shows you're paid up through next year, but I don't have any record of receiving it. Do you have a receipt? Elise froze. Automatic payment. She'd never set up automatic payments. There was only one person who would do something like that. I'll check my records, she said faintly. There must be a mistake. In her apartment, Elise paced back and forth, anger and gratitude warring within her. Sebastian was still trying to take care of her, even after she'd walked away. Her phone rang and she answered without checking the caller ID, half expecting it to be Sebastian. Hello? Elise Monroe? An unfamiliar female voice asked. This is Diane Roberts from Vale Technologies. I'm calling about a job opening we think you might be interested in. Elise sat down hard on her couch. I think there's been a mistake. I'm a housekeeper, not a tech person. This isn't a tech position, Diane explained. We're looking for someone to manage our new on-site childcare center for employees. Your experience with your sister's care and your excellent references make you a strong candidate. It was too much of a coincidence. Sebastian had to be behind this too. Thank you, but I'm not interested, Elise said firmly before hanging up. Her phone immediately rang again. This time it was Jenny. You won't believe what happened, her sister exclaimed. I got accepted into this amazing new healthcare program. All my treatments are covered, even the experimental stuff Dr. Chen wanted to try. Elise closed her eyes, overwhelmed. That's wonderful, Jenny. And there's more. The program includes a stipend, so I don't have to work while I'm undergoing treatment. Elise, this changes everything. After reassuring her excited sister that yes, it was amazing, and yes, they should celebrate, Elise hung up and stared at her phone. Sebastian was systematically removing every obstacle she'd put between them. The job she'd used as an excuse. The financial concerns, Jenny's health. Her phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. The Gardenias miss you. They're not the only ones. Tears filled Elise's eyes. Despite everything, her heart leapt at those simple words. Another text followed. I'm in the greenhouse, if you want to talk. Elise stood, pacing her small living room. Should she go? Would it just prolong the inevitable? Their worlds were still just as different as they had been weeks ago. But something Jenny had said kept echoing in her mind. Did he ever ask you to be anything other than exactly who you are? Before she could talk herself out of it, Elise grabbed her keys and headed for her car. The drive to the Vale mansion was both familiar and strange. As she approached the gate, it opened automatically. Sebastian must have told security to expect her. Instead of parking by the service entrance as she'd always done before, Elise drove right up to the main house. This time she wasn't coming as an employee. The house seemed quieter than she remembered. No staff visible as she made her way through the familiar corridors to the back door that led to the greenhouse. When she pushed open the glass door, the scent of gardenias enveloped her. And there, standing among the white blooms, was Sebastian. He looked different, thinner with dark circles under his eyes and a weariness that hadn't been there before. But when he saw her, his entire face transformed. "You came," he said, the same words he'd spoken the first time she'd met him here. "You've been busy," Elise said, staying by the door. "Paying my rent, finding jobs for me, setting up medical programs. For my sister." Sebastian had the grace to look embarrassed. "You found out about all that. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "I hoped you wouldn't," he admitted. "I just needed to know you were okay." Elise took a step closer. "I asked you not to contact me, and I didn't, technically." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Until today." "Why now?" Elise asked. "It's been weeks." Sebastian's smile faded. "Because I realized that respecting your wishes was the coward's way out. I told myself I was being noble, giving you space. But the truth is, I was afraid." "Of what?" "That you were right. That our worlds are too different. That I can't make you happy." He moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "But then I realized something even more terrifying. That I'd never forgive myself if I didn't at least try." Elise's resolve began to crumble. "Sebastian, nothing has changed. You're still you and I'm still me." "No," he disagreed. "Everything has changed. These weeks without you, I've never felt pain like that. It made me realize that none of it matters, the money, the company, this house. None of it means anything without you." He was standing right in front of her now, close enough to touch. "Don't want someone from my world," he continued. "I want you, just you. However you'll have me." Elise felt tears welling in her eyes. "I can't be your project, Sebastian. Something you need to fix or take care of." "You're not a project to me," he said fiercely. "You're everything. My first real smile, my first real kiss, my first love." The last word hung between them, fragile and powerful. "I love you, Elise," Sebastian said, his voice breaking. "I have no experience with this, no frame of reference. All I know is that when you left, you took all the light with you." Elise couldn't stop the tears then. "I love you too," she whispered. "That's why I left. I was so afraid of what loving you would mean. How it would change me, change my life." Sebastian tentatively reached for her hand. When she didn't pull away, he laced their fingers together. "It will change things," he acknowledged, "but we'll figure it out together, on your terms, not mine, not the world's, ours." Elise looked down at their joined hands, remembering how nervous he'd been the first time they touched. "What about your board, the press, all those people who think I'm just after your money?" "Let them think what they want," Sebastian said dismissively. "I've spent my whole life worrying about what other people might say or do. I'm done with that." He pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. "That kiss ruined me," he whispered. "I sleep with my hand on my lips like I'm afraid it'll fade. But I'd let it fade if it meant you could live without being afraid of me, of this, of us." Elise's heart constricted at the raw honesty in his voice. He'd opened himself completely to her, holding nothing back. "I'm still afraid," she admitted. "But I'm more afraid of never knowing what we could have been." Sebastian's eyes brightened with cautious hope. "Does that mean you'll give us another chance?" Instead of answering, Elise leaned in and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, then deepened with all the longing of their weeks apart. When they finally broke apart, Sebastian looked dazed, as if he still couldn't believe this was real. "Is that a yes?" he asked, a smile tugging at his lips. "It's let's try," Elise clarified, "but on two conditions." "Anything," Sebastian promised immediately. "First, no more secret payments or job offers. We make decisions together." She fixed him with a stern look. "I mean it, Sebastian. Partners. Equals, or this won't work." He nodded solemnly. "I promise. What's the second condition?" "The healthcare program for Jenny stays," Elise said. "That was incredible. Not just for her, but for all the people it will help." Sebastian's smile returned. It was already done. No taking it back now. As he pulled her into his arms again, Elise felt something settle inside her. They still had challenges ahead. His fame, her pride, the whispers that would follow them. But for the first time, she believed they might actually overcome them. "I missed you," Sebastian murmured against her hair. "Every minute of every day." "I missed you too," Elise whispered back. "The Henderson family's books were all alphabetized. It was terrible." Sebastian laughed, that rusty sound she'd fallen in love with, and Elise knew coming here had been the right choice. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. 3 months later, Elise stood in front of the mirror in their bedroom, adjusting the simple black dress she'd bought for tonight's charity gala. It would be her first public appearance with Sebastian, and despite his reassurances, her stomach was in knots. "You look beautiful," Sebastian said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. He was handsome in his tuxedo, his hair trimmed and face clean-shaven, a far cry from the disheveled recluse she'd first met. "I'm nervous," Elise admitted. "Everyone will be watching, judging." "Let them," Sebastian said, kissing her shoulder. "All that matters is us." The past 3 months had been a period of adjustment for both of them. True to his word, Sebastian had treated Elise as an equal partner from the start. When she insisted on finding her own job instead of working for his company, he'd supported her. When she'd declined to move into the mansion right away, needing time to adjust to their new relationship, he'd understood. Instead, they'd compromised. Elise took a position as program coordinator at a local community center, using skills she'd developed caring for her sister. Sebastian had renovated the greenhouse into a cozy retreat where they could spend time together, away from the pressures of his world. Slowly, Elise had spent more nights at the mansion until it seemed silly to keep paying rent on an apartment she rarely visited. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Elise asked, turning to face him. "Once we're seen together at an official event, there's no going back. The press will be all over this." Sebastian tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've never been more ready for anything. I want everyone to know that you're the woman I love." His confidence steadied her. "Okay then, let's do this." The Vale Foundation Charity Gala was being held at the city's most prestigious hotel. As Sebastian's car pulled up to the red carpet, Elise could see the flashes of cameras already going off, remember, Sebastian said, squeezing her hand. "Just smile and keep walking. You don't have to answer any questions." Elise nodded, taking a deep breath as the driver opened their door. The moment they stepped onto the red carpet, the shouting began. "Mr. Vale, over here! Sebastian, who's your date?" "Sir, is this your first public appearance with a romantic partner?" Sebastian kept his arm firmly around Elise's waist, guiding her through the chaos with practiced ease. He smiled politely but didn't engage, just as he'd promised. Inside the ballroom, heads turned as they entered. Elise could feel the curious stares, hear the whispers. She held her head high, channeling the confidence Sebastian had helped her find. "Sebastian, there you are," called a distinguished older man, approaching them with a smile. "And this must be the mysterious Elise we've heard so much about." "James," Sebastian greeted him warmly. "Yes, this is Elise Monroe." "Elise, this is James Westfield, chairman of my board." Elise extended her hand, expecting a perfunctory greeting. Instead, James clasped it in both of his. "My dear, you have no idea how grateful we all are to you," he said sincerely. "Our reclusive genius here has become almost human since meeting you." "Board meetings are almost pleasant now," Sebastian laughed. Don't exaggerate, James. I'm still a nightmare at budget reviews. True, but at least you attend them now, James countered good-naturedly. And the new childcare center was a stroke of brilliance. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. As the evening progressed, Elise was surprised by the warmth with which most of Sebastian's colleagues greeted her. There were a few cold shoulders and speculative glances, but far fewer than she'd feared. Everyone seems so nice, she whispered to Sebastian as they stood at the edge of the dance floor. What did you expect? That they'd throw drinks in your face and call you a gold digger? Sebastian teased. These people have worked with me for years. They're just happy I finally found someone who makes me less of a miserable grouch. Elise laughed, relaxing slightly. I guess I built it up in my mind to be worse than it is. Speaking of worse, Sebastian murmured, his posture stiffening. Richard's headed this way. Elise turned to see Richard Klein approaching, champagne in hand and a blonde woman on his arm. Sebastian, Richard greeted, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Quite a turnout tonight. Richard, Sebastian acknowledged coolly. You remember Elise? Richard nodded. Of course, the former housekeeper. The way he said it made the job title sound dirty somehow. Elise felt Sebastian tense beside her. Program coordinator now, actually, Elise corrected pleasantly. At the West Side Community Center. We're partnering with the Vale Foundation on several initiatives. Richard raised an eyebrow. How convenient. Not really, Sebastian interjected. Elise turned down a much more lucrative position at Vale Technologies to maintain her independence. The foundation partnership was James's idea, not mine. The blonde woman at Richard's side looked uncomfortable. Richard, darling, I believe the band is starting our favorite song. Shall we dance? Richard allowed himself to be led away, but not before giving Elise one last cold look. I'm sorry about that, Sebastian said once they were alone. Richard is complicated. He doesn't approve of me, Elise stated simply. He doesn't approve of anything that might distract me from the company, Sebastian corrected. But he'll come around. Or he won't. Either way, it doesn't change us. The music shifted to a slow song and Sebastian extended his hand. May I have this dance, Ms. Monroe? Elise smiled, her earlier tension forgotten. You may, Mr. Vale. As they moved together on the dance floor, Elise felt the last of her doubts fading away. Yes, there would always be people like Richard who saw her as beneath Sebastian, but there would also be people like James who saw beyond labels to the happiness she and Sebastian had found together. What are you thinking about? Sebastian asked, pulling her closer. How far we've come since that night in the library, Elise replied. Your first kiss, Sebastian smiled, his eyes soft with memory. Best moment of my life. Really? Elise teased. Better than when you took your company public. Or won that genius. Grant, none of that even comes close, he said seriously. You gave me something I never thought I'd have, Elise. A real connection. A reason to come out of hiding. His sincerity touched her deeply. You gave me something too. The courage to believe I deserve more than just getting by. As the song ended, Sebastian kept hold of her hand. Come with me. There's something I want to show you. He led her through the ballroom and out onto a private terrace overlooking the city lights. The night air was cool, and Sebastian slipped his jacket around her shoulders. What's this about? Elise asked, curious. Sebastian seemed suddenly nervous, running his hand through his hair. A gesture she knew meant he was uncertain. I had a whole speech planned, he began. Something eloquent about how you changed my life and how I can't imagine a future without you. Elise's heart began to race. Sebastian, but the truth is I'm terrified right now, he continued, his voice shaking slightly, because even after all these months, a part of me still can't believe that someone as genuine and kind and beautiful as you could love someone as damaged as me. Sebastian, Elise whispered, touching his face, you're not damaged. You're the strongest person I know. He caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. I'm strong because of you. You saw me, really saw me, when I was hiding from the whole world. Then, in a move that stole Elise's breath, Sebastian dropped to one knee before her. Elise Monroe, he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. I know it's only been a few months, I know people will say it's too soon, but I've waited my entire life to feel the way I feel when I'm with you. He opened the box to reveal Her ring, not the massive diamond she might have expected, but a delicate band with a single pearl surrounded by tiny gardenias crafted in white gold. "Will you marry me?" Sebastian asked, his eyes shining with vulnerability and hope. Tears filled Elise's eyes. "Are you sure? You're bored, the press, let me worry about them," Sebastian interrupted gently. "All I need to know is if you want this, want us, forever." Elise thought about the journey that had brought them here, the chance meeting in his study, the first tentative kiss by the firelight, the painful separation that had only proven how deeply they needed each other. "Yes," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." Sebastian's hands trembled as he slipped the ring onto her finger. When he stood, Elise threw her arms around him, kissing him with all the love in her heart. "It's beautiful," she said when they finally broke apart, admiring the ring. "How did you know I'd prefer this to some enormous diamond?" Sebastian smiled. "Because I know you, Elise Monroe, just as you know me." They stood together on the terrace, the city lights sparkling below them like a reflection of the stars above. It wouldn't be an easy road ahead. There would be gossip, criticism, adjustments as their different worlds merged. But in that moment, holding each other close, none of that mattered. "What happens now?" Elise asked, resting her head against his chest. "Now," Sebastian said, kissing the top of her head, "we live our life, together." 6 months later, Sebastian stood in the garden of his estate, their estate now, watching as workers put the finishing touches on the simple white archway. Tomorrow, he and Elise would be married beneath it, surrounded by the gardenias that had become a symbol of their love. "Nervous?" asked James, who had agreed to be Sebastian's best man. "Terrified," Sebastian admitted, but in a good way. The past half-year had been a whirlwind. As predicted, their engagement had caused a media frenzy. "Billionaire bachelor to wed former housekeeper," had screamed the headlines. They'd weathered it together just as they'd promised. Elise had stood strong beside him at press conferences and charity events, winning over critics with her genuine warmth and intelligence. Sebastian had supported her work at the community center, proud of the programs she'd developed for families dealing with chronic illness. Even Richard had eventually come around, especially after Elise had politely but firmly corrected his assumptions about her at a board dinner. "She's good for you," James observed, watching Sebastian's face. "I've known you for 15 years and I've never seen you this happy." Sebastian nodded. "She makes me want to be better, to do more than just hide away with my computers." The veil. Foundation had expanded dramatically under their joint guidance, focusing particularly on healthcare access and resources for caregivers like Elise had once been. Jenny had been the first success story, her experimental treatments showing remarkable results. She would be Elise's maid of honor tomorrow, standing strong on her own 2 feet. "Mr. Vale," called one of the workers, "we've finished the arch. Would you like to inspect it?" "I'll be right there," Sebastian replied, then turned back to James. "Can you believe it? Tomorrow at this time I'll be a married man." James clapped him on the shoulder. "If anyone deserves this happiness, it's you." As night fell, Sebastian sat alone in the greenhouse, surrounded by blooming gardenias. Per tradition, he wouldn't see Elise until the ceremony tomorrow. She was staying with Jenny in the guest house, probably going through last-minute wedding details. His phone buzzed with a text from her. "Can't sleep, too excited." "I love you." Sebastian smiled, typing back, "I love you too. See you at the altar." He looked around at the peaceful space they'd created together. The greenhouse had been expanded, with comfortable seating areas and bookshelves added. It had become their favorite retreat, a place where they could just be themselves away from the demands of his company and her work. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see Martha at the door. "A small delivery for you, sir," she said, handing him a small box. Inside was a single white gardenia and a note in Elise's handwriting. "Tomorrow I become your wife. I'll be the one in white, walking toward you with my whole heart in my hands. Thank you for being brave enough to let me see the real you, for showing me that love doesn't have to hurt to be real, for being my first and my only. All my love, Elise." Tears stung Sebastian's eyes as he carefully folded the note and tucked it into his pocket. From a man who had never been kissed to, a man about to be married, the journey seemed impossible, yet here he was. The next day dawned clear and perfect. Sebastian stood beneath the white archway, his heart pounding as music began to play. The small gathering of their closest friends and colleagues turned to watch as Jenny appeared first, walking slowly down the petal-strewn path. And then, Elise. She wore a simple white dress that flowed around her like water, her hair adorned with tiny gardenias, but it was her smile, radiant and sure, that took Sebastian's breath away. As she reached him and took his hands, Sebastian felt a peace he'd never known before. "You came," he whispered, echoing the words he'd said the first time she'd met him in the greenhouse. "I'll always come back to you," Elise promised. Their vows were simple, heartfelt. Sebastian spoke of darkness and light, of loneliness ended, and walls crumbled. Elise spoke of courage and trust, of finding home in unexpected places. When they were pronounced husband and wife, Sebastian cupped Elise's face in his hands and kissed her with all the love in his heart. Their first kiss as a married couple wasn't their first kiss ever, but in many ways it felt just as profound, just as life-changing. The reception was held on the lawn, with white tents and twinkling lights creating a magical atmosphere as dusk fell. Sebastian couldn't stop looking at Elise, couldn't believe that this extraordinary woman had chosen him. "What are you thinking?" Elise asked as they swayed together for their first dance. "That I'm the luckiest man alive," Sebastian replied honestly. "That somehow against all odds I found you." Elise smiled up at him, her eyes shining with happiness. "We found each other," she corrected. "And now we have the rest of our lives to be grateful for that." As the night deepened and stars appeared, overhead, Sebastian and Elise slipped away from the celebration, walking hand in hand to their greenhouse sanctuary. The gardenias glowed white in the moonlight, their sweet scent filling the air. "Mrs. Vale," Sebastian said, testing the name. On his lips. "That's me," Elise replied with a smile. "Though I might keep Monroe professionally, hope that's okay. Whatever makes you happy makes me happy," Sebastian assured her, pulling her close. Their kiss in the moonlight was gentle, familiar now, but no less magical than their very first. "I used to be so afraid of letting anyone see the real me," Sebastian confessed, his forehead resting against hers. "Now I can't imagine my life any other way." "That's what love does," Elise said softly. "The real kind. It makes you brave." As they held each other among the flowers that had witnessed the beginning of their unlikely love story, Sebastian and Elise knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The billionaire and the housekeeper, the man who had never been kissed, and the woman brave enough to show him what he'd been missing. Their first kiss had been just the beginning. Their last would be decades away, after a lifetime of love built day by day, kiss by kiss, moment by cherished moment, but tonight was just for them, for the promise of all those moments yet to come. "I love you," Sebastian whispered. "My first. And only." Elise smiled up at him, her heart full. "And I love you, forever." In the quiet of their greenhouse, surrounded by white gardenias and moonlight, their lips met once more, no longer a first kiss, but one in an endless series that would mark their journey together. A journey that had begun with a chance encounter, a wrong turn down a hallway, and the courage to say, "You don't have to be alone all the time," and the vulnerability to answer, "I don't know how not to be." But now they both knew. Together was how not to be alone. Together was the answer they'd both been seeking all along.